Cruise ships are becoming floating cities at sea. The largest carry thousands of passengers and crew members. They contain neighborhoods, theaters, parks, pools, and restaurants. Some even have water parks and enormous entertainment districts. But cruise lines are not building bigger ships merely to impress passengers. Behind their extraordinary size lies a powerful economic strategy. Every additional cabin can generate more ticket revenue. Every restaurant can create another opportunity for spending. Every attraction can help transform transportation into entertainment. And that raises a fascinating question. How large can cruise ships actually become? For most of history, passenger ships served transportation first. People boarded because they needed to cross oceans. Luxury existed, especially aboard famous ocean liners. But the fundamental purpose remained moving passengers between destinations. Commercial aviation completely changed that equation. Jet aircraft could cross oceans within hours instead of days. Traditional passenger shipping suddenly became far less practical. The industry needed an entirely different reason to survive. Instead of competing with airplanes for transportation, cruise companies increasingly sold something airplanes could never provide. The journey itself became the destination. That transformation started an extraordinary race toward bigger ships. And decades later, that race is still accelerating. Modern cruising developed rapidly during the 20th century. Early cruise vacations were relatively straightforward experiences. Passengers enjoyed comfortable cabins, restaurants, swimming pools, and entertainment. But cruise operators discovered something important. The more activities available on board, the easier cruises became to sell. A ship could become more than transportation. It could become a self-contained vacation resort. That idea fundamentally changed cruise ship design. Companies began adding larger theaters and multiple restaurants. Shopping areas appeared alongside increasingly elaborate swimming pools. Fitness centers, casinos, nightclubs, and entertainment venues followed. Then competition intensified. Each new generation needed something more spectacular. Ships became longer, wider, taller, and heavier. But size offered something beyond visual spectacle. It could improve the economics of cruising. Running any cruise ship requires enormous fixed expenses. Ships need trained crews, navigation systems, maintenance teams, entertainment staff, kitchens, security, and powerful engines. There are also substantial port and operational costs. A larger ship can spread many expenses across more passengers. This concept is called economies of scale. Imagine two ships traveling similar routes. One carries roughly 2,000 passengers. Another carries 5,000 or more. The larger vessel obviously requires additional employees and resources. But many costs do not increase proportionally with passengers. That can reduce costs on a per-passenger basis. More passengers also mean more potential customers on board. And modern cruise companies earn money from much more than cabins. Passengers may purchase specialty dining and beverage packages. They can spend money on excursions and entertainment. Shops, spas, photography, and other services add revenue. Suddenly, every extra passenger represents multiple spending opportunities. This helps explain an apparent contradiction. Cruise tickets can sometimes look surprisingly affordable compared with land-based resorts. The cabin does not necessarily represent the entire opportunity. Once passengers board, they enter an environment filled with optional purchases. But economics alone cannot explain gigantic ships. Cruise companies face another challenge. Thousands of passengers want completely different vacations. Families may want water parks and children's activities. Couples may prefer restaurants and quiet lounges. Young adults might want nightlife and live entertainment. Older travelers may prioritize comfort and destinations. A small ship has limited space for everything. A giant ship can divide itself into different experiences. That has produced one of modern cruising's biggest innovations. Ships increasingly resemble neighborhoods rather than single resorts. One section might contain restaurants and nightlife. Another could feature swimming pools and water slides. Elsewhere, passengers might find shops, gardens, theaters, sports facilities, and children's areas. People can spend days on board without experiencing everything, and that is extremely valuable. Because cruise lines are not simply competing against other ships, They are competing against almost every vacation option. A family choosing a holiday might consider Disney World. Another might choose an all-inclusive Caribbean resort. Others might visit Las Vegas or a major European city. Cruise companies therefore need ships impressive enough to become destinations themselves. That pressure produced increasingly ambitious vessels. Royal Caribbean's Oasis-class ships represented a major leap. Their enormous scale allowed designers to divide vessels into distinct neighborhood-style areas. Later, ships pushed the concept even further. When Icon of the Seas entered service in 2024, it became the world's largest cruise ship by gross tonnage at the time. It stretches roughly 365 meters long. Its gross tonnage exceeds 248,000. Its maximum capacity reaches more than 7,000 passengers, alongside thousands of crew members. Yet those numbers only explain its physical scale. The more important story is what that space contains. Water attractions compete with major resorts. Entertainment venues operate throughout the ship. Restaurants serve thousands of meals every day. Huge amounts of food, water, luggage, waste, electricity, and supplies must constantly move through hidden service areas. The ship passengers see is only half the machine. Behind walls and beneath public decks sits an industrial operation. Thousands of meals must appear on schedule. Cabins must be cleaned repeatedly. Pools require constant treatment and monitoring. Laundry operations process mountains of linens and towels. Waste must be collected and managed. Fresh water must be produced or stored. Entertainment schedules need precise coordination. And all of this happens while the entire structure moves across an unpredictable ocean. The engineering challenge is extraordinary. Yet there is another reason ships keep growing. People talk about enormous ships. A record-breaking vessel generates headlines before carrying passengers. Images spread across social media. Videos showing gigantic water slides and towering decks attract millions of views. Size itself becomes advertising. That gives companies an incentive to keep pushing boundaries. But eventually, bigger creates serious problems. The strange truth about giant cruise ships is simple. Their greatest advantage can also become their weakness. A vessel carrying thousands of passengers cannot visit everywhere. Many ports were built long before ships reached today's enormous dimensions. Harbors can have depth restrictions. Bridges create height limits. Turning areas may be too small. Terminals may struggle with thousands arriving simultaneously. Even when the ship physically fits, destinations can become overwhelmed. Imagine several thousand passengers entering a small coastal town within hours. Restaurants fill rapidly. Tour buses crowd streets. Historic districts become packed. Local infrastructure suddenly carries the population of a temporary small city. This has contributed to growing tensions around over-tourism. Some destinations have introduced restrictions affecting cruise traffic. Environmental concerns have also intensified. Cruise ships require enormous amounts of energy. The industry has invested in cleaner technologies, efficiency improvements, alternative fuels, shore power, and advanced waste management systems. Newer ships can be significantly more efficient per passenger than older designs. But enormous vessels still have substantial overall environmental footprints. That creates a difficult equation. Cruise companies want bigger ships because they can offer more attractions and potentially stronger economics. Ports and communities must decide how much cruise traffic they can handle. Passengers want spectacular experiences. Environmental pressure demands greater efficiency. The race toward bigger ships therefore cannot continue without consequences. And interestingly, the future may not belong exclusively to giants. Luxury operators often move in the opposite direction. Smaller ships can reach destinations inaccessible to massive vessels. They can offer fewer passengers and more personalized experiences. Expedition cruises deliberately use smaller ships to visit remote environments. So the industry is splitting. One side is building floating megacities. The other is selling exclusivity and access. Both are responding to different versions of the same question. What experience are travelers willing to pay for? Cruise ships reveal something larger about modern tourism. Travel is increasingly becoming experience-driven. For generations, destinations were the main attraction. The hotel simply supported the journey. Megaships reversed that relationship. The ship itself becomes a destination. Some passengers choose cruises, partly because of the vessel rather than the ports. That changes everything. Cruise companies can design attractions unavailable at ordinary hotels. They can combine accommodation, restaurants, entertainment, transportation, and recreation within one controlled environment. Then, the entire resort moves overnight. Passengers can wake up somewhere completely different. Few tourism businesses can offer that combination. Technology may push the concept even further. Future vessels could use smarter energy systems. Alternative fuels could reduce certain emissions. Artificial intelligence may optimize navigation, energy consumption, maintenance, and onboard operations. Ship designs could become increasingly efficient, but physical limits remain unavoidable. Ships must fit inside ports. They must navigate safely. They must evacuate passengers during emergencies. They must operate economically. And perhaps most importantly, destinations must actually want them. The future of cruising, therefore, may not simply involve building endlessly larger ships. The real competition could become building smarter ones. Cruise ships became enormous because the business changed. They stopped being transportation, with entertainment on board. They became entertainment destinations capable of transportation. Every additional deck created space for another attraction. Every additional cabin created another potential customer. And every record-breaking ship became advertising for the company behind it. That strategy transformed vessels into floating cities containing almost everything travelers expect from vacations. But eventually, the ocean is not the limitation. Ports are, communities are, environmental pressures are, and travelers themselves are. The biggest question facing cruise companies is no longer whether they can build an even larger ship. Modern engineering has repeatedly shown that they can. The real question is whether bigger will continue meaning better. Because after decades of building floating cities, the next revolution in cruising might not be the largest ship ever built. It might be the first one, proving size is no longer the most important thing.